Yeah, what's good, Josh? Man, the Bigga P, and I'm here to make a video with my thoughts about tonight's Showtime card. Before I get to those fights, I just want to talk about one of the fights that I watched earlier. Um, Pulev versus Tony Thompson. Now, I thought this fight was strange because Tony was pretty much, was it like 5 or 6 weeks, even after the second fight with Price, was going back in the ring with a man who's been pretty much avoided by a lot of the heavyweights, the upper echelon of um, of heavyweights today. And I thought it would be. I thought it's interesting. I guess he's probably trying to ride the momentum of those two David Price knockouts to get back in the ring so soon against Puloff. Now it would have been interesting if Thompson did pull off the upset and beat him. Then of course we would have gotten Vlad Tony Thompson 3, which is a fight I'm not looking forward to actually watching. But and it looked that way in the beginning because the first couple of rounds it was just Tony outworking and Pulev not doing anything. But as the fight went on, Pulev adjusted and found his mark regularly, and Tony faded, especially down the later stretch. Where yes, he used his cunning veteran tricks to basically to stay on his feet and to survive the fight. But yeah, I mean he ended up losing that pretty clearly. Um, like I said, I've never been the biggest fan of Tony Thompson. I like I said, I look at him as like he's not working that hard. And yes, I did find those two fights with David Price entertaining, but he should have not taken a fight like this on such a short notice. It was just really uncalled for. I mean, at least give himself at least a couple 2 months, or at least to actually train for this fight. And he didn't do it, and he got worked. Pulev, I've never thought he was I don't think he's a bum or anything like that. But the one thing that he didn't do that drove me kind of crazy was the fact that he could have put Tony away if he actually knew how to cut off the ring, which he didn't. His footwork is not the best. Um, yeah, that I mean, so he's gonna get the shotgun. This Klitschko most likely. But that cannot be something that we're missing. Like, if he wants to get a shot, actually being black, his footwork has to improve. Because with the fact that he couldn't cut off the ring against a man who was gassing and was probably ready to go. I just don't see someone like that beating Vlad easy. Um, so that's pretty much my thoughts on that fight. Now tonight's card, first on stuff was Santa Cruz versus Terrazas. Um, Interesting fight. I thought it was gonna be somewhat competitive, and while it was, what happened was basically Terrazas stood in front of Santa Cruz um, from opening bell and probably absorbed a 10-round beating within 3 rounds. Um, he elected to trade with him, and I thought that was probably one of the stupidest things you could ever do with someone like Santa Cruz, who's a volume puncher and who had a reach advantage and who knew how to fight on the inside. And I mean, I couldn't believe it. Probably within, I think, the first round, Terraz's eye was just like closed. It was just closing and so on. I was like, usually when an eye closes like that, the fight doesn't last very long. And the fact that it did so early, I think the fight ended after 2 knockdowns. Terraz was just beaten up badly within 3 rounds. Santa Cruz is an interesting, he's an interesting fighter. I mean, I was having a back and forth conversation with my boy Lukey about this, and he was talking about, oh yeah, he fights like Chavez Senior. I'm like, no, I think he fights more like Margarito. Um, he said it's obviously because of the body work. I think of Margarito because of his look and the actual way he just uses his height and his reach to just overpower people with combinations. But he'll be a good addition to 122. It's a shame though that the fight with Rigondeaux would probably couldn't take place, as that would be a money fight there. But of course people the little beef in boxing with Golden Boy and Top Rank. Pretty much will make it makes that an very small possibility, if never. That's boxing politics in 2013 for you. Um, but let's see. The main event, of course, was Abner Mares versus Johnny Gonzalez. She was defending his featherweight title. Now, when I was talking about this fight before on other forums and stuff, Johnny Gonzalez is a very hot and cold fighter. When he's hot, he scores these wins that you can't really explain. When he's not, he loses, and he loses badly. Um, and so, like Johnny Gonzalez is probably one of the few fighters. It's hard to even bet on him. I mean, you can do so. You may get lucky. You may not get lucky. But he's a very difficult guy to bet on due to his hot and cold nature. And I'm thinking now he's facing Mares. Mares' competition over the last 3 years or so. Now, I'm not a fan of Mares. I still think he's dirty fighting. I never forgave him for what he did to Becco in the first fight. But even then, I still thought he had more than enough in the tank to actually beat down Gonzalez. I was wrong. I was very, very, very wrong. I didn't realize how wrong I was. Watching the fight, I mean, I didn't even finish my first beer. I had my Heineken, took maybe a couple of swigs of it, and bam, left hook found its mark, and Mares is on the canvas, eyes all rolling in the back of his head, helter-skelter. Now, what happened? Now, what Mares should have done was either run or hold. But Mexicans, they don't know what holding, clinching means when they're hurt, if they get hurt. So he fired back, and Gonzalez promptly sat him down again. Nearly folded him, too, because his legs nearly buckled right underneath him. And the last combination, and then we have now Gonzalez, once again, is a featherweight champion of the world. No one saw this coming. I didn't see this coming. Some people may, it was just one of those fights where, I mean, my hat's off to Gonzalez because he blew hot tonight. But I just can't believe that that it happened. I'm still shocked. I'm still shocked right now that Gonzalez was able to pull off this upset. This is probably the upset of the year. There's no question about that. This is definitely the upset of the year so far in 2013. And Mares, I like Mares that show. I mean, he showed good sportsmanship, and you congratulated him. Good sportsmanship between both fighters. For Gonzalez, of course, he probably got himself, another payday or so. With that belt, I mean, of course, we can see now that he has a belt again, he doesn't want to go after Ponce de Leon again in a rematch, or try to go after someone like Mikey Garcia or somebody like that. But there's fights for him now. For Mares has already talked about taking a break, spending time with the family. Those aren't the type of words I wanted to hear from a young fighter from suffering their first defeat. I'd rather hear I go back to the drawing board, work on some things and fight back, become a better fighter. Stuff like that. Now Mares, I mean, I don't think he's too small for the division for feather. But it was probably one of those things. It's probably one of those things where I guess what happened with him and Gonzalez it was just styles make fights. It was just he had the wrong style, wrong strategy, and just got caught. Got wiped down around. It's boxing. It's a theater of unexpected. A lot of strange things that happen. Without much explanation and such. And also another thing that I guess someone else brought to my attention, it's probably not the best thing in the world. Whoever signed this fight with Mares and Gonzalez, probably not a good idea to put Mares in against Gonzalez, or especially once Mares was once a former sparring partner of Gonzalez. And also on the eyesight, Mares should have been very familiar with Gonzalez if that was the case. But yeah, like I said, it's a young guy. First loss, first round. He'll come back and he'll become and I'm sure he'll improve and become a player once again. Um, well, other than that, that's pretty much it for me in terms of what I had to say about these fights today. So, until next time, peace.